The dying breath. The warning lights painted everything red inside Nexus Prime's engineering section. Marcus Webb wiped sweat from his forehead as he adjusted the atmospheric processors for the third time that morning. The massive space station hung in the void between Earth and the Kathrani homeworld, serving as humanity's first diplomatic outpost with an alien species. Marcus had been stationed here for 8 months, long enough to know that the environmental systems never quite worked perfectly. Human technology and Kathrani atmospheric needs created constant challenges. The aliens breathed a mixture similar to Earth's air, but required specific trace gases that human lungs couldn't process. The Kathrani delegation had arrived 2 weeks ago for historic peace negotiations. Their pale blue skin and elongated limbs made them appear fragile, but Marcus had learned they possessed remarkable intelligence. The lead scientist, Zara Vex, often worked late in the research lab studying human Kathrani biological compatibility. Marcus checked his tablet displaying system diagnostics. Sector 7 showed fluctuating oxygen levels again. He grabbed his tool kit and headed through the curved corridors toward the research wing. The station's artificial gravity made his boots ring against metal flooring with each step. As he rounded the corner near the Kathrani research lab, emergency alarms began blaring. Red lights flashed more urgently, and the station's computer announced in its calm, mechanical voice, "Atmospheric breach in Sector 7. Emergency protocols activated." Marcus broke into a run. Sector 7 housed the main Kathrani laboratory, where their scientists conducted sensitive experiments. The corridor ahead filled with acrid smoke that burned his nostrils. Through the haze, he spotted other station personnel evacuating the area, their faces covered with emergency masks. "The lab sealed itself," shouted Lieutenant Torres as she rushed past. "Automatic lockdown engaged." Marcus reached the laboratory entrance to find blast doors sealed tight. The viewing window revealed chaos inside. Equipment lay scattered across the floor, and sparks flew from damaged control panels. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows through the smoke-filled chamber. Then he saw her. Zara Vex lay collapsed near the far wall, her slender form motionless on the cold metal floor. Her usually luminescent blue skin had faded to a sickly gray color. She wasn't moving, and Marcus realized with horror that the lab's atmospheric system had completely failed. "Emergency override!" he called out, pressing his palm against the door scanner. "Medical emergency in progress." The scanner beeped negative. "Atmospheric contamination detected. Override denied for safety protocols." Marcus checked his tablet frantically. The lab's air supply showed catastrophic failure. Carbon dioxide levels were spiking while oxygen dropped to dangerous levels. Even if Zara were conscious, the toxic atmosphere would kill her within minutes. Other station personnel gathered behind him, including Commander Harrison and several human technicians. They watched through the window as Zara stirred weakly, her hand reaching toward them before falling back to the floor. "We need to evacuate this section," Commander Harrison ordered. "The contamination could spread." "She's dying in there," Marcus protested, still working at the door controls. "It's too dangerous. We'll lose more lives trying to save one alien." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. One alien. He watched Zara struggle to breathe, her chest rising and falling in desperate gasps. Her species had traveled across the galaxy to establish peace with humanity, and they were willing to let her suffocate because the risk seemed too great. Marcus looked at the faces around him. Fear, calculation, cold pragmatism. Not one person stepped forward to help. The peace negotiations suddenly felt hollow when they wouldn't risk themselves for a single life. He made his decision. Marcus pulled out his emergency plasma cutter and began working on the door's locking mechanism. The tool's blue flame cut through reinforced metal with intense heat, sending sparks cascading to the floor. "Webb, stand down," Commander Harrison barked. "That's a direct order." "She's a person," Marcus replied without stopping his work. "I won't watch her die." The door's emergency seals gave way with a hiss of escaping air. Immediately, toxic gases began seeping into the corridor. The other personnel backed away, pulling on emergency masks as contaminated atmosphere spread. Marcus sealed his own breathing mask and rushed into the dying laboratory. The air inside was thick and poisonous, making his eyes water despite the protective equipment. He reached Zara just as her breathing became shallow and irregular. Her eyes opened as he knelt beside her, revealing the startling violet irises. That marked her species. Recognition flickered in her gaze, followed by something that looked like gratitude. She tried to speak, but only managed a weak whisper in her native language. Marcus checked his oxygen gauge. His mask carried enough clean air for maybe 10 minutes in this environment. Not enough time to repair the atmospheric system or wait for rescue equipment. The math was brutal and simple. Zara's breathing stopped. Without hesitation, Marcus removed his breathing mask and pressed it against her face, covering her nose and mouth with the precious flow of oxygen. The toxic air immediately began burning his lungs, but he held steady, letting her breathe from his supply. Her eyes widened in shock and terror, not for herself but for him. She tried to push the mask away, back to him, but Marcus held it firmly in place. He smiled despite the fire spreading through his chest with each breath. "It's okay," he whispered, though he doubted she understood English. Something extraordinary happened then. As Zara breathed the oxygen from his mask, her skin began to glow with soft bioluminescence. The pale blue coloring deepened and spread across her features in intricate patterns. Her eyes locked onto his with an intensity that seemed to pierce through the toxic air between them. Marcus felt a strange, tingling sensation, as if electricity was passing between them through the shared air. His vision began to blur from oxygen deprivation, but he maintained his grip on the mask, ensuring she continued breathing. From the corridor outside, he heard Commander Harrison shouting orders for emergency medical teams. The other personnel pressed against the sealed doorway, watching in horror and fascination as the scene unfolded. Zara's hand reached up to cover his, their fingers intertwining around the breathing mask. The bioluminescent patterns on her skin pulsed faster, and Marcus felt the strange tingling sensation intensify throughout his body. Something was happening between them, something beyond simple medical assistance. His strength began to fade as carbon dioxide poisoning took hold. The laboratory spun around him, but he kept the mask pressed against Zara's face. She was breathing steadily now, her color returning to normal, though the strange glowing patterns remained vivid across her skin. Emergency rescue teams finally breached the laboratory's outer doors, flooding the chamber with clean air and medical equipment. Marcus collapsed as fresh oxygen reached his lungs, but he maintained his hold on the breathing mask until medics could take over. As they lifted him onto a stretcher, Marcus caught sight of other Kathrani rushing into the laboratory. Their violet eyes were wide with shock, and they spoke rapidly in their musical language while examining Zara. Something in their tone suggested more than medical concern. Through his oxygen-deprived haze, Marcus heard one word repeated several times: Vithin. He didn't know what it meant, but the way they looked between him and Zara suggested it was significant. The last thing he saw before losing consciousness was Zara sitting up on her own stretcher. Her bioluminescent patterns were still glowing, and her violet eyes were fixed on him with an expression of wonder and something that looked almost like recognition, as if she were seeing him for the first time, or perhaps seeing something in him that hadn't been there before. The medical bay's sterile lighting replaced the laboratory's chaos as Marcus drifted into unconsciousness, unaware that his simple act of saving a life had just triggered something that would change both their species forever. The unexpected. Bond Marcus woke to the soft hum of medical equipment and the antiseptic smell of the station's medical bay. His throat felt raw, and his lungs ached with each breath. But he was alive. Through the observation window, he could see Nexus Prime's main corridor bustling with unusual activity. "You're awake." The voice was melodic, carrying the distinctive accent of the Kathrani language translated through a vocal synthesizer. Marcus turned his head to find Zara Vex sitting in a chair beside his bed. Her blue skin had returned to its normal pale shade, but faint traces of the bioluminescent patterns still flickered beneath the surface. She wore simple gray clothing provided by the station, but her violet eyes held the same intense recognition he remembered from the laboratory. "How long was I unconscious?" Marcus asked, his voice hoarse. 2 days. The medical team said you suffered severe oxygen deprivation and chemical poisoning. You nearly died saving my life." Marcus struggled to sit up, ignoring the protests from his aching body. "Anyone would have done the same thing." Zara's expression grew somber. "No, Marcus Webb. They would not have. I watched through the window as your people debated whether one alien life was worth the risk to human safety. Only you chose to act." The weight of her words settled over him. He remembered Commander Harrison's order to evacuate, the fear in the other personnel's faces. They had been willing to let her die rather than risk human lives. The realization left a bitter taste in his mouth. "Your species calls it the greater good," Zara continued, "sacrificing the few to protect the many. My people have a different philosophy. We believe that how we treat one individual in crisis reveals our true nature as a civilization." Marcus noticed that several Kathrani had gathered in the corridor outside, their elongated forms visible through the medical bay's transparent walls. They watched with intense interest, occasionally speaking in hushed tones in their native language. "Why? Are they all staring?" he asked. Zara's skin flickered with a brief pulse of bioluminescence. "Because of what happened between us. When you shared your breath with me, you initiated something that has not occurred between our species before." She rose from her chair and moved to the window, gazing out at the assembled Kathrani. "My people have a biological response to extreme stress and life-threatening situations. When someone saves our life through direct physical contact, especially sharing breath, our bodies form what you might call a genetic recognition bond." Marcus felt a chill despite the warm medical bay air. "What kind of bond?" "Our nervous systems become synchronized to some degree. We can sense each other's emotional states, physical condition, even general location within a limited range. It is an evolutionary adaptation that helped my ancestors survive in dangerous environments by creating unbreakable alliances." The strange, tingling sensation Marcus had felt in the laboratory suddenly made sense. Even now, sitting in the medical bay, he could feel a subtle awareness of Zara's presence that went beyond normal human perception. When she felt concern, he felt it too. When her bioluminescence pulsed, something responded in his own nervous system. "How long does it last?" he asked. Zara turned back to face him, her violet eyes reflecting complex emotions. "It doesn't end, Marcus. The bond is permanent. You and I are now connected for life." Before Marcus could fully process this revelation, Commander Harrison entered. The medical bay, accompanied by an elderly Kathrani whose elaborate robes marked him as someone of high rank. The alien's skin bore intricate tattoos that seemed to shift and move in the light. "This is Elder Thane," Commander Harrison announced, his voice tight with barely controlled tension. "He leads the Kathrani diplomatic mission." Elder Thane approached Marcus's bed with measured steps. When he spoke, his words carried the weight of formal authority. "Marcus Webb of Earth, you have created a situation that threatens the peace negotiations between our peoples." "I saved someone's life," Marcus replied, feeling defensive. "How does that threaten anything?" "Because," Elder Thane continued, "the Bond you now share with Zaravex makes her loyalty to her own species questionable in the eyes of our political leaders. Similarly, your human commanders fear that your judgment may be compromised by alien influence. Commander Harrison stepped forward. The Joint Council is demanding that both of you be removed from the station. The Kethrani want Zara returned to their homeworld, and Earth Command wants you transferred back to a purely human facility. Marcus felt a spike of alarm, and immediately sensed an echo of the same feeling from Zara. The thought of being separated felt wrong in a way he couldn't fully explain, as if someone were suggesting he cut off his own arm. That won't work, Zara said quietly. The bond creates physical as well as emotional connections. Separation over great distances causes severe psychological trauma for both individuals. Elder Thane's expression remained impassive. Then you understand why this situation is unacceptable. Peace between our species cannot be built on the foundation of two individuals whose loyalties are divided. Marcus struggled to his feet, ignoring the medical equipment's protests. Our loyalties aren't divided. If anything, we're proof that humans and Kethrani can work together. Or, Commander Harrison countered, you're proof that close contact between our species leads to dangerous complications that could undermine everything we're trying to accomplish. Zara moved closer to Marcus, and he felt her determination through their strange connection. There's something else you need to... No, she said, addressing both leaders. The laboratory accident wasn't an accident. The room fell silent. Elder Thane and Commander Harrison exchanged glances. What do you mean? Harrison demanded. I was researching biological compatibility between humans and Kethrani, Zara explained. My work suggested that limited genetic exchange might be beneficial for both species. Someone sabotaged the atmospheric system to destroy my research and eliminate me before I could present my findings. Marcus felt pieces clicking together in his mind. The timing was too convenient. The sabotage happened just as the peace negotiations reached a critical stage. Elder Thane's tattoos seemed to shift more rapidly across his skin. You're suggesting someone on this station wanted to disrupt the peace talks. Someone from one of our species, or possibly both, Zara replied. My research threatened those who profit from keeping humans and Kethrani separate. Trade monopolies, military contracts, political power structures that depend on conflict and suspicion. Commander Harrison activated his communication device. Security to Medical Bay. Priority 1 investigation required. Over the next several hours, Marcus and Zara worked together with station security to uncover the conspiracy. Their bond proved unexpectedly useful. They could sense each other's thoughts and insights, making them remarkably effective investigators. The trail led to a group of human corporations working with Kethrani traditionalists who feared that peaceful cooperation would dilute their respective cultures. They had planned for the laboratory accident to kill Zara and destroy her research, then blame human safety protocols for the tragedy. But they hadn't counted on Marcus's willingness to sacrifice himself for an alien life. As the conspirators were arrested, Marcus and Zara found themselves in Commander Harrison's office facing a new reality. The bond between them had not only saved Zara's life and exposed the conspiracy, but also demonstrated something unprecedented. Your connection allowed you to work together in ways neither species has achieved before, Elder Thane observed. Perhaps this bond is not the threat we believed it to be. Commander Harrison nodded reluctantly. The investigation succeeded because you could share insights and intuitions instantly. It's like you became a new kind of intelligence. Zara looked at Marcus, and he felt her quiet hope through their connection. We could be the first of many, she suggested, not replacing either of our species, but building bridges between them. Marcus understood what she meant. They weren't human or Kethrani anymore, but something new, something that belonged to both worlds and could help both species understand each other. The peace negotiations can continue, Elder Thane announced. but with new parameters. The bond between Marcus Webb and Zara Vex will be studied, understood, and possibly replicated under controlled conditions. You're talking about creating more bonds? Marcus asked. We're talking about creating a new kind of diplomat, Commander Harrison replied. Individuals who can truly understand both species because they carry something of each within themselves. As the weeks passed, Marcus and Zara remained on Nexus Prime, serving as living proof that cooperation between humans and Kethrani was not only possible, but beneficial. Their bond deepened and stabilized, allowing them to facilitate communications and understanding between the two species. The peace negotiations succeeded, resulting in the first lasting alliance between humanity and an alien civilization. Trade agreements, scientific exchanges, and cultural programs flourished under the guidance of bonded pairs who could bridge the gap between different forms of consciousness. Marcus often thought about that moment in the laboratory when he had chosen to share his breath with a dying alien. He had acted on pure human instinct, the simple belief that all conscious life deserved protection. That choice had changed everything, not just for him and Zara, but for both their species. Standing on the observation deck watching ships from both worlds dock at the expanded station, Marcus felt Zara's presence beside him even before she arrived. Their bond had taught them that connection didn't require sameness, that understanding could grow from difference. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked, joining him at the viewport. Marcus smiled, feeling her affection and contentment through their shared consciousness. "Saving your life? Never. Changing both our species forever?" He considered the question seriously. Below them, human and Kethrani children played together in the station's educational center, their laughter echoing through the corridors. The next generation would grow up knowing that the universe was full of friends, not just strangers. "Someone had to be first," he said finally. "I'm glad it was us." Zara's skin pulsed with gentle bioluminescence, a sign of deep happiness that Marcus had learned to recognize. Through their bond, he felt her complete agreement. They had started as strangers from different worlds, but had become something greater, together. The universe was vast and full of wonders yet to be discovered, but they would face it together, carrying the best of both their species forward into whatever came next.